Welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. Today's guest is challenging everything we think we know about healthcare. Dr. Clint Phillips is the founder of Medici, a former chiropractor turned healthcare innovator and one of the leading voices pushing medicine away from reactive treatment and toward prevention, longevity, and accountability. After moving to the United States from South Africa, Dr. Clint built a world renowned clinic that attracted elite executive and even President Obama. But helping patients avoid unnecessary surgeries and cover the real root causes behind health issues. He later founded and exited a 460 million healthcare company. Now that's big. And he's now focused on building what he believes is the future of healthcare: proactive, personalized, data driven medicine designed to catch problems before they become crises. And that's a big deal. So, Dr. Phillips, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on the show with you today.
Well, the honor is mine, and listen, you had Obama, so I can't beat that, right? what what
Well,
what what doctor? Uh, I, my introduction is never going to do justice to who you are and the work you've done and the work you do. Let's go to the source. I mean, I mentioned something about you coming from South Africa to the US, starting the healthcare. What was the driver behind, I mean, getting into the healthcare? Was that actually what you've done in there? And then, because I mean, changing countries and systems can be very different in a lot of ways.
yeah, God works in mysterious ways. I come from a family where people don't live long. So growing up, I noticed my dad was sick, in and out of hospital, and he was just very had a lot of heart challenges. He actually died at 55 years old. My grandparents died in their 60s, two of them by cancer, one of them by suicide. And I was like, wow, I want to live differently, but like, can you actually change your stars? It was just a real question. Could you actually make a difference and actually change these things? And, take me back to 20 years old, 30 years ago. There's not a lot of information out there. It's not really easy to just jump on Google and go like, hey, can I change my genetics? And so I started reading and I started looking for things. And I remember one day I'm sitting on a rugby bus. I was a rugby player, traveling, touring, playing rugby. And a guy sees me reading a book from the US, a Dr. Kenneth Cooper, on how to regain your youth. And the guys look at me and say, dude, you're 20 years old. Have you lost your youth or something? What's going on here? And I was just really interested to go like, hey, can I live healthier? I had I met some kids who had their great grandparents alive. And I'm like, what? My grandparents are gone and you've got great grandparents? Well, I come to play rugby in Aspen, Colorado. I had just graduated in South Africa as a chiropractor, trained in physical therapy, acupuncture, nutrition, had some wonderful training. And I meet all these 80 and 90-year-olds in Aspen, and they are healthy. Some of them are skiing. I mean, I get this opportunity to ski with this guy, 97 years old. And I mean, he is up tall. He looks beautiful as he's floating down the mountain. And I'm like, the dude's in his 90s. Like the people I knew in South Africa, like in their 60s, they were watching TV. And that was like they were sort of just waiting, on the decline. So it really just challenged my thinking on how much better could we live? How much could we change? So that took me down the pathway of DNA. That took me down the pathway of as much learning as I could possibly have. So I opened a clinic at the St. Regis Hotel in Aspen, Colorado. Met the founder of Starwood Hotels, Mr. Barry Sternlicht, and just still grateful to this day that he gave me a chance to open this beautiful space in Aspen. I had no credit. I was just recently got my work visa, and here I am, like launching a clinic. And it really turned out to be amazing. And we found this little nugget for all the people that came to us from across the world ultimately. You've mentioned some, the Saudi royal family, and people started coming, European royalty, sports people, business people started coming to our clinic. And we found that the cure for back pain is also the cure for chest problems, for heart health. It's actually the cure for anxiety. It's actually the cure for so many things that plague us in our health. And the cure for your back is let's get you moving. Let's get you eating better. Let's get you thinking better. Let's help you build a frame that allows you to be able to do activities you probably haven't been able to do. And it's a very holistic way around. And it was lovely because people said, hey, not only is my back feeling so much better, but my knees better. And I just did my physical and my doctor says my cholesterol's down that. And remember, we changed breakfast with that. Remember that we focused a little on sleep. And, here's the supplements we helped you with. So it was very exciting to go, maybe, we can do more for people than just fix their spines. So we had this beautiful place in this beautiful hotel, and we would close the clinic. Dream life. I mean, 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, we close the clinic. In the winter, we go ski. We're right at the base of this epic mountain. And in the summer, we'd close it and we would go get on our bicycles and go bike ride. I mean, it was amazing to be able to do this. But we had I was married, I still am, uh, to the same wife, about to celebrate 24 years, my darling. And we had three kids, but our third child had a stroke 2 days after her birth, after a hepatitis B vaccination. And we were devastated. Didn't know what to do, where to go. Ultimately, they said she needs a pediatric neurologist. Like, okay, where do you find one? They're like, oh, you probably have to look in Denver, have to go overnight, leave our other two kids with somebody else to take to the doc. And the first doc says, hey, there's nothing we can do. She's had a very big brain bleed. She's paralyzed down the right side of her body. She probably won't walk or talk, but she said, you can try therapy and good luck. And we're like, and what else? She's like, no, that's it. I said, well, could we, at that time, there was no Zoom and things. I said, could we Skype you? And she's like, no, I don't think that's a thing. I don't feel comfortable with that. I said, well, it's pretty hard to like come stay in a hotel every time, drive through the snow for 4 hours to just ask you some questions. So that gave me an idea. And I said, there are so many people struggling uh, finding access to doctors. What if we started a company that just focused on virtually connecting you over Skype or something like that to the world's best doctor in that field? So surely we could make that easy. So we started the company. It was called Second MD, and it would match you with the best doctors in the world. And that sounded very good on paper. And I wrote a business plan, and I got a few people lend me money. I'll put some money into it. And then we called the doctors. Hey, do you want to be part of our platform? And I remember the first doc I called, he said, F off and don't ever use my cell phone
Oh,
again. Beep. I was like, ooh, that didn't go well. I didn't even get to tell him what we do. You know? So it turned out to be very hard to get these great doctors, but we did it. And miracle after miracle to get them. And slowly, companies started to buy our service for their employees because they said, wow, that doctor network, it's really nice to tell our employees that if they run into trouble. So we got universities like Texas A&M University signed up for 27,000 employees, and we were like, we can make payroll. And then bigger companies, Wells Fargo, SpaceX, FedEx, Waste Management, we were helping 20,000 truck drivers talk to the best doctor in the country. And we had to solve many of them. English wasn't their first language, so we'd have to figure out translating. We had to figure out how to get your medical records there. There is one thing harder than getting the best doctor in the country to the call. It is getting your medical records there in the same time, in 2 or 3 days, which was our promise. So that turned out to be wonderful. We were working so hard at that. And I was earning a very small salary. We just wanted the business to survive. And slowly it was growing. And one day somebody came along and said, hey, we'll give you a lot of money. I said, well, what do you mean by a lot of money? And they told us, and we're like, okay,
it's a
he's
lot of money.
yours. You know? And it was a life-changing moment. And the idea with the new company was that we would be able to help even more people, and they would take it, to be even bigger. So that was a very exciting thing. But it gave me a chance to really think, what do I want to do now? If I don't have to work for money, um, where do I want to be? And I realized that I really wanted to help people prevent the disease in the first place. Our company, Second MD, was remarkable. If you found out you had some rare disease, some complex diabetes, some difficulty with cancer. Oh, we could get you the very best treatment plan. You'd know exactly what to do. That we were like, man, I would love to have you not have that cancer in the first place. What if you never had that diabetes in the first place? What if we held your body in such a healthy state that that autoimmune disease never manifested, and really ravaged your health? So those were some of the thinking. And so we started Medici, which is Latin for doctor. And Medici is the idea that we could be the most preventive healthcare company in the world, and that we could build the world's healthiest community. And if I go out my office to the clinic here today, I mean, the health of the people that we see and have, and not everybody started that healthy. Some of them came in here with big bellies and, waddling, and now they are moving, exercising, feeling fantastic, putting on muscle mass, growing their bones, uh, better mental clarity. So it's been a very exciting journey. And obviously, like you, thousands of learnings, along the way.
Oh, Doctor, I don't know where to start. There's so much there. Well, first of all, I want to go just to a few things that you talked about, and they're big. I mean, you're young, you're seeing people around you and your loved ones, sick or dying at an early age. That is. Listen, 55. That's where I am today. So that's a kind of scary, thought even like to think about it, right?
Yeah.
And it is, eye opener when you see people I, that are not just healthy and they're just literally just demising. I mean, they just basically are wasting away in some way or shape, right? And there's nothing you can do about it, right? And we see a lot of that. But you were young enough to see that value, to see that you noticed that, and certainly you said it yourself. That's not how you want to be. You want to do good. You want to stay healthier. You want to make it work, and you did. So you went to the field of chiropractic, medicine, physical therapy, which basically there's a lot of work to be done. I've had so many discussions with various chiropractors of different disciplines, PTs. I mean, there you're in Colorado. I think you have the Headache Doctor podcast, the Novera there close to you.
Mm,
So Dr. Tavis, Jonathan Tavis,
yes.
we've had a few. We had a show a long time. He is part of the network, and his information is always playing on our stuff because it's all about pain management and all that stuff. And really, the preventative aspect of things is not in a culture of any of us today in the world. For the most part, we don't have the culture of let's do the right thing before it's too late. We just
Yes.
kind of wing it out and we see the doctor. Listen, my dad died at 73, and he has never gone to a doctor that I recall personally until
Mm,
it was too late. That's when actually we went to the doctor, but at that point it was kind of late because he
mm,
had prostate cancer that metastasized and it was the end, right? And
uh,
but that's the thing, preventative it's really what it is. It's prevention.
yeah.
You can see things better, early on. You can prevent things, you can catch things early on, which means you have a better shot, at the cure and so on and so forth. And that's something that
HH,
is
that's
yeah.
so, you're so right there. I was telling my team last night at dinner, you can go to the number one cancer hospital in the country, some would say in the world. Most people know the name. And you might spend $500,000 there. Insurance hopefully covers it for these treatments, for these profound treatments, these chemotherapies and radiations and all these things. And, maybe they would have, if they started earlier, helped your dad, not hard to know. But one conversation you'll never have with them. Now, you spent $500,000. Nobody sits down with you and says, hey, I'd like to show you how to avoid getting cancer again. Um, and there's incredible data all the way back to the 80s that 80 to 90% of cancer is lifestyle or environment related. So the great majority of cancer comes from environment and lifestyle. And nobody sits down and says, HH, you're going to really want to be careful to not have these types of products in your house. You're going to want to use exercise, ideally some vigorous exercise, because that really lowers your risk considerably. I want you to start having green tea once a day, just a green tea. That's going to lower your risk. Surprisingly, a simple little thing like that. We did your DNA test. And according to your DNA, he has 5 or 6 other compounds that will be very protective for your health. You never have that conversation with anybody. A conversation would cost $50. I mean, in the $500,000 budget, you think you like give somebody $50 to explain to you. Hey, here's a list of the things I don't want you in your house. Here's the food additives that I think we know are dangerous. It doesn't happen. Nobody. All they say is, "Hey, let's come back in 3 months or 6 months, and let's catch it early." I don't want to catch it early. I don't want to get it in the first place. you know? So,
But
just to your point.
no, no, doctor. It's funny. I'm smirking. And I'm just got all these facials going on while you're talking because you're really speaking my language. And again, I've had cancer, friends,
Mm,
that suffer through with that disease and many other diseases. Diabetes is a huge one. It's rampant, right? My mom had diabetes for over 30 years, and I know friends. Like my best friend and partner, he has got diabetes, and so it's these are diseases that to your point dating back a few decades back, and they're preventable. I mean, you can do something about it. And I love what you said about it's the environment. Well, without getting into the politics and all the stuff, sadly, our world is really we don't live in a natural as we are supposed to be as humans. Everything, we have processed food, the pollution in the air, in the water around us, the environment, you name it. I mean, listen, I know where you live right now, so I know that the nature is a little better there than most of other places. But the fact of the matter is, even if you have the nature, even stuff, to your point, you have stuff that you bring to your home, all these toxins that are in your dishwasher, your I don't know, your detergents for your clothes, right? Your spray, all the stuff,
yes.
even the perfumes, the family, there's so much stuff that we using on a day-to-day basis is completely harmful, and somehow we can't even get rid of that stuff because it became culture.
Yeah.
The food has become also the same. You talked about movement earlier, and you referred to it also about people doing stuff. I love the idea of you shutting down the clinic. Let's go do some slopes and let's do some biking. Between line, and siesta time. Like that would be the Spanish version of taking a
Yeah.
break in between work. But you know what I mean. It's something about the movement, the health aspect of
Yes.
things. Keeping things. But I love what you said, and I think everybody watching and listening right now, this is a big deal for us, folks. The idea of we can do this. We don't have to actually visit. Oh, we caught it early. Let's fix it now. Let's not even get there. To your point, we can do it. And frankly,
Yeah.
the last month, I've had so many shows about longevity and ways of doing this holistically, different ways, wellness systems that can help people with the right supplements, with the right movement, with the right assistance, detoxification. All these things can make a difference. And by the way, it's funny because I am in the UAE right now, and was it Saturday? We were in Sunday. We were at an event, and now in here, there's a huge trend of building these clinics that are like wellness clinics. They're like really hospital, setting, but they're like villas and homes and houses and hotel style with everything that you need. And the purpose is really to get you to optimize your health, right? And so obviously this is a pricier, point, value, if you want to call it that way, as far as money is concerned, things like that. But the concept of wellness is there. The concept is like, hey, there's stuff that we can do to prevent people from getting sick. And the joke about our healthcare in general is that it's sick care, not healthcare. I mean, you see the doctors and you you do all the stuff when you're already sick. It's too late, right? Now, some people get lucky; they can potentially get back the body. But you said it, genetics, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and we talked about my allergies, right? Stuff that you already have, so you can be conditioned to some conditions that are diabetes can be one. We hear this all the time. Oh, if you have family history of this or the other, you can be also potentially at risk, and so we have to look at these things. But the concept that you've created is awesome. By the way, I love the Second Med concept that you had and the company because I know first of all I know how it works to generate a network and build a network. It can be a nightmare. I've done it on the insurance space. I've done it on my own company. It is not for the faint of heart. It's very difficult. And once you get that, that's I think half of the game. As a matter of fact, in the insurance space, if you have the right network, you pretty much have, the best deal already by default, because everybody wants to go to their doctors, the preferred doctors, right? So that's one. But the idea of having the access to all the varieties of services, and even the idea of second med, like second opinion, first opinion, second opinion, you can actually, do more than just, go to your regular primary doctor, and so on and so forth. So you have that. So the
Yes.
concept is tremendous. And I love the idea. I said, okay, well, I got a nice hefty sum, I sold my company that I built. Now I can do something even better, which is now you're in really the business of preventing issues for people that actually
Yeah.
living around, and that is a big deal. Now, by the way, you said you had some elite. I mean, I mentioned Obama. You mentioned some royal families from the Saudi, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that do this. And then there is a statement that some people can say now, well, you mentioned all the big guys, they have the money and so on, so they can afford this stuff. What about us? We don't have that ability. And
Yes.
I don't know how far you want to go in that discussion, because I know that's always a question in people's mind. Like, well, and I hear this all the time. Oh, the elite can do this. The rich can do this. What about the poor?
Yeah.
Now, listen, I
Oh,
can
we'll
tell you.
talk about them.
Well,
Yeah.
you can stop me and just get in there, but because I'm in the insurance space and literally 35 years today, 35 years, and I've been working in the government program. So that's Medicaid, Medicare, long-term care, all these programs that are subsidized by either the federal or the state level. And so is there potential, stuff available to people who may not have the money? Yes. Does it give them the access
Mhm.
to everything that's out there? Probably not. So that's always a question. But the idea is there is stuff that's available. What you're building is something that can be accessible somehow. So let's talk
Yes.
about the concept itself, and the reach, and some of the services that you provide at your at Medici.
With pleasure. You know, the point you raise about affluence and being able to have the money to support, some of these things, there's definitely, where we cater to. For $5,000, you can come to our clinic in Austin, and we will evaluate you so thoroughly and give you such incredible information on your health that it will last you for years. We also have a DNA test. It's $5,000, and you only do it once in your life, and you have the most incredible information on how your body works. Um, but at the same time, we want to help way more people. We have a concierge program people pay $25,000 a year for, and it is incredible. You get a whole team around you. And no matter what you need, things are taken care of, nutritionists and access to top doctors. But our people are not even getting sick and really needing like access to the specialists. So we have access to the company ourselves. We don't even have to use it much because we're preventing so many of the things. But your point is very good. And what about the people who can't afford these? What are the person who's on Medicare, who's on Medicaid? The first thing I think people need to realize is that there is so much you can do for your health outside of the healthcare system. People have no idea. They've been trained by an industry to say there's a pill for every problem, a pill for every ill. I've heard some of the pharma people say, and that's really what they want you to believe. They've disconnected you from the ability for you to manage your body. You're like, oh, so it's way too complex for you. Like you're just a normal person. You don't have a medical degree. You can't figure this out. So you need me. Um, and we've been, pulled apart from it. And it's you got to shake that thinking. You got to say, hey, I'm in charge here. I really know what I need, and this is the best way for it. So the cures, one of the things I say, the cures for your health are often way simpler than you think. Let's talk about diabetes. I've got 6 of the 7 diabetes like markers where they go like, hey, you're very likely of getting diabetes. In fact, when I met the geneticist, she said the week you stop exercising, you'll be a diabetic. That's how specific, how high my risks are. But at the same time, through research and through our DNA testing, they showed that if I will take the spice curcumin, it lowers my risk by 30%. Curcumin costs about $3 a month. You can get it anywhere. It's an Indian spice. It's in a lot of Indian foods and things. It's easy. Another marker is if I will eat lunch at the same time every day, I will lower my risk of diabetes by another 30%. Not even changing what you eat, just giving your blood sugar and your body the predictability of the spike for lunchtime. So here I am with two effortless, inexpensive, practically free things to do that have a meaningful difference on my health. If I'll take berberine, there's another supplement that's going to lower my risk further. If I start to, make sure that I realize just how important exercise is for me, I'm not going to quit on that. I can massively lower my risk. So somebody who didn't know that in my body would have been a diabetic 10 years ago. And in my body, my risks are coming down a little every year instead of the risks going up. So it's not always a thing about, well, my insurance should pay or is this covered? It's like there's things you can do. You'll love this, but we've got this. We had a psychiatrist who really came in and spoke to our people, and she said, "Hey, depression's a big thing. It's a big thing. We recognize it's a pandemic, but let me show you what we do." Because everybody comes and says, "What drug do you have for me?" She said, "Well, let me tell you about exercise. Exercise is more effective, and then the type of exercise that you're doing. Dancing is 3 times more effective than medications. The study showed that not only is exercise more, but it actually showed you which exercises. Like dancing, like, come on, man, go join some class somewhere, go there, dance and feel better afterwards. But any exercise outperforms. So exercise is one. The next thing, processed foods. Processed foods affect moods. You eat less processed food, you start eating just from how you get it out of a grocery store in vegetable forms and not out of a factory, your mood starts to change. Number three, time in nature. Walking for 10, 15 minutes in the park, in the woods, access to nature can have a profound effect on mood. Notice we haven't spoken about drugs yet, like
Mm.
exercise, processed food. Fourth, communities of faith. People who go to church, a synagogue, that are part of a community, deal with issues, recover from trauma and difficult things significantly better than people who are trying to wing it alone. So these are things, none of the things I've told you are cost anything. These are all naturally available, but you don't need the best doctor in the country to give you the best medication. You actually need to put these in. The most effective one we have is acts of service. Our doctors prescribe acts of service. What is an act of service? You're going to go serve at a food kitchen. You're going to go to that old age community and you're going to go volunteer to be able to help. We had a guy after his first visit to a service place he went to service. He said, "You know what? I'm fixed." So what do you mean? What do you mean you're fixed? He said, "I realized the problem." He said, "I'm an a-hole." He said, "That's my problem. I've been just about me. I've been so focused on me. I haven't been able to do that." And that realization of me going to serve and help has just changed my outlook and my frame. None of those 5 things, and there's actually more that you can go down the list. But the healthcare system has said, well, if you're depressed, you probably need to switch your medication, up your dosage, or do something like that. When the reality is, there's so many things and ways that you can help that don't require insurance coverage for. So whether it is back pain, whether it is diabetes, whether it is cancer, whether it is these things, we have to realize that we've got so much more control than we've been told, and that the solutions are often way simpler than what we believe.
Well, thank you again. I'm just making all these visuals here. It's amazing because you're touching on very basic elements of really these things are all accessible to any one of us watching and listening. I don't care what part of this planet you're in. What you just mentioned, the walking, the dancing, the turmeric or turmeric, the turmeric, right? So it comes
Yeah,
um in there. It's available. It's to your point. We cook with it. Everybody has that, and you can put a little spoon. I mean, I know it's got a blood thinner level to it, so you have to be careful. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but
mm,
it's something that I've learned over the years about that. But in everything in you have to be moderate, right? You can't go crazy with
yeah,
everything, right? So you have to be careful. Obviously, you have to check with the right experts. But today, you mentioned something earlier, like back in the days, we didn't have the Googles that we have today, and the chats that we have, and the AI, right? Yet today we have all that, and I think now people have more access to information, that can help them access, these basic elements. I mean, I'm trying to do this as much as I can. It's been 7 years since we started this platform for this purpose, to help people get the expertise and the knowledge and the resources. But even if we go to the extreme that you said about the cost itself, like for those people that may not have the right insurance, because a lot of these insurances will not pay, services like this, because these are like electives, right, type of concepts. However, how many of us will save money to go on a trip, save money to buy a car, save money to buy, I don't know, a ring, or some crazy stuff that I saw that I want, right? We all do that. It's part of our, culture, is like, hey, I want that. I'm going to work hard and make money. You can also get a loan. I mean, you said like it's a once in a lifetime test, for example, that you get, so that can get your stuff. Is it worth investing in it? I think it is. It's up to the people to decide what's good for them and what's worth it or not for them. But I think everybody can agree to one thing: we all want to stay healthy, live long, and prosper, as the Star Trek, the Trekkies will state. The idea is that it's available to all of us. And you're right; it's small steps. Walk in, dancing. I mean, listen, everybody loves a good beat. You just, and you can dance in your own culture beat too. So it doesn't
Yes.
matter where you are. Put your own favorite music and just go for it, right? And you can sweat out, you can stuff. And I love what you said. You know, some of these things can shift your danger or risk from this level to this level, from up to down, tremendously. Not a big deal. Another thing you mentioned, doctor, is the mental health. Mental health is a huge thing, and it affects everything we do. And you're right. If you're mentally not, in the best position, it does have an impact on how you eat, how you sleep, whatever you do. All that stuff also, can be a trigger to all these illnesses and things like that. And ultimately, to your point, the culture that has been developed over the last 100 years is a culture of industry profits, come first, and so and marketing supports all that, and everybody is getting bombarded with the idea that, hey, this is the breakfast of the champions, this is how it should look like, this is what you need to be eating. You have all these fast food, processed food. I mean, you're right. I mean, we should be eating from what nature gives us, not what is made in a factory as a it's like any other parts of a car, right? I mean, these are not, it's the edible ingredients, but are they really nutrition? That's a big
Yes.
question that do we also add. I actually joke with my kids, like, yeah, it's edible, so you can have them. They're sweet, they're salty, they have all the stuff, but they have zero value of nutrients. So basically, you just put in stuff that your body does not understand, and your liver is like having a good fight, and sometimes the fight is is a loss, and that's it. It's a knockout, and now you're in trouble. So these are all issues that we have in our. And by the way, some countries may have it worse than others. Depends on how progressive they are or how political they are. So that can also change the dynamics in terms. I mean, Europe, for example, there are parts of the food, monitor and regulations that control some of the dyes, the colors that they use, the type of elements that they use in the ingredients and stuff like that. Whereas, for
Yes.
example, in the States, we don't have that. So it changes. Now you go other parts of the world, it may be different. So some regulatory bodies can monitor and operate faster than others. So it changes the dynamics. But nevertheless, to your point, it doesn't take a lot for anyone to make a difference in their life or their loved ones, and help themselves to a better health. And it doesn't get better than preventing anything from happening before it actually occurs. So doctor, I think you've literally defined a little bit what is wrong with our health, and what people are getting wrong today. Because I think what we're getting wrong is that we're always thinking about, like, well, how much they're gonna cost, or I'm just gonna, like, wait until sick and my doctor's gonna fix me with a couple of pills. By the way, the pills will do a fixing, but that's what they do. They just kind of shut down the connection to your brain. Your brain thinks you're all good. Maybe they prevent some stuff, but there's side effects, adverse reactions, and so on and so forth that can actually be just as bad. That that it could be worse actually than the actual cause, whatever that may be. So those are some of the things. Now, the services you have, besides the testing, and how does like, let's say someone comes in and does the testing, what's available to them in the facility, and what's available beyond the facility once they I guess they finish that
Mm.
initial I guess intake.
Yeah, a few ways to help people. So the first is what we call the executive assessment. $5,000, deep dive, look at your eyes, ears, skin, ultrasound over your organs. We draw 16 vials of blood to look at everything. We test for 50 different cancers. We look at your flexibility, your balance. We look at your strength. Grip strength for a mark is a really good marker of how long you're going to live. So we look, how long can you hang there? And like, oh, I hung 10 seconds. Yep, you're not going to live long. And here's why. So we look at a whole lot of different things. Some are basic, some are very incredibly scientific and, cost, have these very expensive machines to be able to do. If you want us to become your medical team, then you become part of our bespoke concierge, and we really wrap our arms around you and say, hey, we're gonna send you continuous glucose monitors so you can understand your glucose. We're gonna get you an exercise expert, a nutrition expert, a top doctor, all to be around you. For those who maybe can't afford that, is we have an app called Dr. Gabby in the App Store. It's the first app that can actually look in the App Store that can look at your face and tell you your risk of a heart attack, a stroke. It can tell you your blood pressure, can tell you about 14 different metrics. It's a game changer. Been offered a lot of money for this app, but it is a way to really be able to help somebody assess. But then we've put a very smart doctor in there called Dr. Gabby, an AI that can really give you fantastic answers. So if you realize you want to take curcumin, ask it like, well, how much should I take? And should I take it before the meal, after the meal, with the meal? Should I take it in a powder or should I take it? Dr. Gabby's got all the answers for you there. Another thing we're very excited about is peptides. Peptides we think hold a tremendous amount of promise. You've heard of GLP-1s like Ozempic, but there's all sorts of other peptides that do other things for your health. Some of them are not FDA approved, some are, but we think there's a way for us to help millions and millions of people with the ability to really optimize their body around peptides. So we're going to be launching a platform called Medici Peptides in the next few weeks. And that will allow people anywhere in the country, you can upload your lab work, um, find protocols, a doctor will watch over each approval for peptides that goes out, but we really are focusing on quality. People are buying them from China, from grey markets. They're not sure what's in them. We are testing these peptides. Often what's said is in the bottle is not in the bottle. And the doctors prescribing them don't even know that. They just say, hey, just send this off to some pharmacy. So those are some of the areas we are really excited about. But I think knowing your numbers, getting a deep assessment and really knowing your numbers year to year. We've got people that every year they get a little healthier. Their peers are declining a little every year and they are getting a little healthier every year. I'd feel better today at 51 than I did when I was 40. I did a Guinness World Record a year and a half ago pushing a car because I was like, hey, I want to show what's like really possible. I mean, I want to compete. I want to go for things. So I'm running my first track meet in 6 years next Thursday night. I'm going to be there with college students and high school students, like trying to get in the mix there. But it's fantastic to be, not feeling like, oh, I'm just waiting for death or just hoping I don't, I hear people talk about all their aches and pains and energy and aging so hard. I'm like, what? Come on, man. This is a privilege. This is an opportunity. There's so much we can do for our health. Yes, there will be hiccups and yes, there will be setbacks, but there is really so much we can do in an age where information is so much more readily available. Um, I'm really excited for what we can do. And if you come to our clinic in Austin, we'd love to host you, HH. And you'll see everybody in the clinic who works there is healthy. They believe in this stuff. How many times you go to a doctor's office and you think, man, I think I'm healthier than the people here working in this office. Like, what's going on here? So really excited to just live and lead, and support people at a different level.
Well, Officer, thank you for the invite. I would not say no. If I'm there, I will definitely stop by because I do have a couple people to visit. So you'll be one of them. But really, a couple of things you said there. One is, so there's the concept of health, right? Let's stay healthy, right? And that's great. But there's the concept of vitality and longevity, right? You can, everybody kind of wants to live as long as they want to live, right? As like they can. But even if you have a span that is 100 years, if you're you're really not fit to live the next 50 years or 40 years, you're in agony, you're in pain, you're having a difficulty. Like I was just scrolling earlier on putting some feed in my social, and I'm looking at this picture. It was just amazing. So bunch of people, young guys, a couple of them always using the car to move about, and there's this guy who's just walking every day to everywhere. And then they show a second part of that same screen, and it shows the same people later on in their life. The guy's still walking, and they're all in crutches and wheelchairs and stuff. Now it's just a symbolic image, but it's a powerful image that actually it's a mind blowing image for anyone that watches it or sees it, because it
Yes.
should be it's a message that, hey, what you do now is your investment in the future. What we do early is an investment in your health. If you miss now, it's too late. That's the bottom line. There's no other way, folks. This is it. We have the chance. I mean, you said you're 51 and you have a Guinness opportunity there, pushing a car or pulling a car. You go into do your track. These are things that most of, to your point, even the young folks may not be able to do it. Because now we have a sedentary, kind of concept. People are sitting down most of the time. You know, uh, we even have flat butts, right? Flat glutes, because people are spending more time on a seat than actually doing some hip, bridges, or doing some running and squats, right? So we have problems because of a lot of factors that are really just, I would say, society engineered concept, right? And they're
Yes.
business engineered, and they are being promoted, subconsciously to us through the movies, through programs, and so on and so forth. It's like the cool thing to actually be on your screen gaming and shoving pizza and soda, right? We have all these things that have been part of our iconic stuff. Even, I mean, talking about the American, culture, for example, these are like the burger, the fries, the drink, the beer, all the stuff is us, right? And that's what's being promoted, royally, but it's all geared towards really getting us not very healthy. The opposite. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of, here's an apple, here's a carrot for kids, and get your little greens or turmeric or whatever. So we don't have that on regular TV.
Mm.
Luckily, we have stuff like this, shows and folks, experts like you, who actually are going and teaching and educating, and also putting the time, the effort, and the facilities to change the dynamics. I started the show saying that you're challenging healthcare. You literally are, because your visual, your concept is very futuristic. I mean, you've already using, you said Gabby, right? The AI.
Yes.
Did I get it right? I mean,
Yes, Dr.
that
Gabby.
that Dr. Gabby. I mean, think about that, folks. I mean, you're listening to the future right now. Actually, the future is here, is now, because many people are afraid of AI, or scared of AI, or shy to even use AI. Yet, here comes medicine, preventative systems, a healthcare that's evolving right now with the systematic, a world that we exist in, which is an AI driven world. And by the way, whether we like it or not, it's just happening. If we don't catch on, it's going to be too late. And same thing with the health. We miss on the health, we miss on the tech. Forget about it. We're behind the eight ball on full time, right? But really, you've gone this. So you've really personalized medicine. You have a data driven system. I mean, you are kind of replacing the traditional reactive model, aren't you?
You know, it's a good thought there. We really spent many years trying to change the existing system, and we try to put doctors in insurance networks and try to get the codes, and then we realized we couldn't really do what we needed to do. The things that make you healthy aren't covered by insurance, and being preventative isn't an insurance real product. So we said, we're probably going to have to create this outside of the system, because the things that we need don't always align up with what gets paid for and what gets covered. So, yes, I think this does build a new system. People who are healthy, they don't need they don't need the big hospital. Yes, they might get in a car crash and they're going to need some, some emergency room. But when you don't have the amount of people getting sick, having heart disease, having cancer, it's a very different system. The things that you actually need around them is the nutritionist, is the person recommending supplements, is the person making sure you've got access to fresh foods. So it's a whole, it's completely different conversations that you get to have. And in some ways, it sounds cutting edge and I sound like I'm doing something smart. In other ways, you're like, Come on, man. You're telling me like you just eat healthy food and you like exercise, like it seems basic. It's like primitive. Like, walk instead of getting in the car and like eat an apple for lunch versus, some processed fast food. Like, in some ways it's really very simple, basic, and aligned with simplicity. So America has shown that spending more money doesn't lead to better health. We spend $5 trillion, twice as much as other countries, in some cases 10 times more than certain countries. And for what? We're not the healthiest. We like living. Last I checked, we were 49th in the world for how long we lived. So obviously, it isn't a question of money. It's a question of understanding and insights and things that we have around it. So part of my training was helpful because as a chiropractor, you go, okay, I've got to solve some things here, but I'm not going to solve it with drugs or surgery. Um, and we trained with people in homeopathy who were like, hey, I know how to use herbs and spices and roots to be able to help people. You're like, that's profound. You can help people with like roots from the ground of trees and plants and flower buds. It's we've forgotten just how simple and beautiful health can be, and we often forget how amazing the human body is. If we protect it, if we nourish it, it does some wonderful things. And if we're harsh on it, it fades out.
Well, doctor, thank you so much. And it's funny because basic is always easy, right? And we tend to always want to do more than basic. And sometimes we kind of lose track of everything. Then you go back to the basic elements, everything else is available and possible. But here's the thing. You talked about coding and codes for insurance and stuff. It's the amazing part is that as an insurance person, personally, I can say this, that we're all about obviously mitigating the risk, for your, members, right? As an insurance carrier, for example, that's what you do. So there's assumptions, there is actuary stuff that happens and all the stuff. But if insurance companies can provide the preventative measures of their clients or members, well, the odds are they're not going to be costly for them, right? So you upfront a little bit in the prevention, and then you save on the long run because these are now your chronic, illnesses and kind of habitual people that will be winding up in a hospital bed, for a month at a time, right? So that's just from a basic element, math to math, right? That's just simple math, right? If we can prevent them here, they're not going to be here. Now, could that affect the healthcare system as a whole, the hospital system? Can collapse if, I mean, I always make the reference, and it's a fact, whether people want to hear or not. Hospital is a hotel, and if you have vacancies, that's a problem, right? You need to have these beds filled up, otherwise you lose, your stuff. You got to bill for all those billables within the hospital stay, for example. That's why hospitals typically will send somebody after 33 days of hospitalization into a rehab facility so they can clear up some of these beds now, providing stuff. Now, if we push too much of the preventative business, that can affect them. So I can see sometimes that can be a challenge, and someone from a hospital setting will be like, "Oh, people, these are the people that we don't like because they're challenging us." You can have the same argument about pills and just and I guess prescribing them, because some doctors actually are somewhat, I would say, they are paid to provide these prescriptions. It's a fact, you know, without bashing anything, but these are just we stating the actual facts of our healthcare system and how it operates, and that's the thing. So what you're putting together here is a concept that can be adopted or at least appealing to the insurance companies. Now, here's the kicker, and this is I think where the challenge is. Most of the insurance companies are sponsored typically by healthcare systems. Now that's where the challenge is, and that's going to be a difficult task. Again, this is just a piece of my mind, that I wanted to share here, with you, doctor.
Yes.
But I appreciate the idea that you're looking into it, because again, billables is you need to have those codes in order for you to have the claims, and they have to be in the system and all that stuff. Now that may take a while, but I think you're already doing that. You kind of mentioned that it's happening, and I know that in the future, this is the wave of the future. People will have to adapt to these things and add them to their systems to survive, even as insurance carriers, because if they can mitigate the risk and the risk is too much, they won't be able to be profitable, and therefore they will collapse. I mean, that's just another fact of the economies of insurance. Wow.
Yeah.
So someone that's listening right now, like what would be the first step for them to really kind of work with you, and or just simply start, in the right path to
Yeah.
get better?
The first thing, is understanding that the solutions for your health are simpler than you've been told, and the solutions probably don't lie within the healthcare system. Like, you're going to have to go and find those outside of the healthcare system. I think often personal trainers and yoga instructors have better advice for people to be healthy than what their doctor does. If the doctors really cared, and they really wanted to make a difference in a person's life, they'd say, hey, when you come meet with me, we're going to go walk for 30 minutes because you getting 4,000 steps is so important. And I want to show you how important it is that we're going to go start walking together, or something to really be able to show. So the solutions for you, people got to take back, some of the responsibility that they've put on the doctors and the healthcare system, and they've got to put the responsibility on themselves and say, hey, there's a lot I can do. There is so much I can do. So that's the first part. The second is you've got to know your body. So you've got to know your numbers. So find a way. Either your doctor can help you order labs, and those are covered by insurance. If you really have the ability to come to Medici, come to Austin, Texas, let them test you 400 biomarkers, and then you'll really have an incredible understanding of your body. But whether getting them from your doc or getting an extensive panel, it's very important that you start to know. People have to know what their A1C, what their blood sugar is. They have to know what their LDL cholesterol is. They have to be able to know, is there inflammation in their C-reactive protein? They have to really just start to get aware. And even if you're just using AI or Google to ask, what do those numbers mean? Which are the ones that are really important? These are important things. And then you can ask Google AI, especially Dr. Gabby, DRGABI, ask her, like, well, what can I do? Which are the changes that I make? How do I get this number down? There is really, you have so much power to improve your health because, yes, you may be able to fix the health insurance system. I'm probably not to. Your average listener is probably not going to be able to change the system, but they can absolutely change the status of their health. And there's far more power within them. And instead of spending the money on some travel, like, get a trainer for 6 weeks, get some momentum, get some quality peptides, get some nutrition in your body. Like, it's worth the spending. My dad's life was cut short at 55. And, you know, the last 10 years of his life weren't fully available. Yes, I'm spending way more every month than my dad would have spent, but I may get an extra 10, 20, 30, 40 productive years. Like, that's worth something. And we have to value that. The excuse of, well, my insurance doesn't cover that, you know, yes, many things it doesn't, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't find a way to pay for that, to do something there. So anyway, those are my thoughts. And Medici would love to host you, HH. And if there's people who want to come and really understand their body in a whole new way, come on down to Austin, Texas. We'll be opening several clinics around the country, and we help people from every state. But it's often the starting point is knowing just the status of their health. And the good news is you get this report back with 400 markers, and one of them says you have no detectable cancer in your body, and you're like, ah, that's nice. So it's not all like bad stuff to be scared of. There's a lot of stuff in there. You're like, oh, this is good news. I don't have to worry about this and I don't have to worry about that. And hey, I'm a little better than I was last year. Very motivating when you see those things. So, anyway, thank you. It's been an amazing honor, HH.
No, the honor is mine, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, and for the invite again. Definitely, dude. It's a great place, and for the excuses that we hear all the time. And by the way, the fitness world on my wife's side, we hear this all the time. Oh, I can't afford this. I can't do this. But yet we always come back like, well, you spend, I don't know, $8 on a Starbucks every morning, and
Yeah.
if you add it up, that's actually more than the gym would cost you, or a personal trainer a month, right? It's just we always, it's very easy to come up with excuses. That's like the easy way out of everything. It's like the number one objection. We just figure out an excuse and we say we can't afford this because. But yet, if we want something, and by the way, if we don't make that money now for our health, and it's going to be somehow you have to pay for the sick because it will cost you
Yes.
to go to the healthcare system. Insurance or no insurance, you still have co-pays, co-insurance,
Yes.
deductibles, and those things just get bigger and bigger. And some people lose their shirt, their house, everything. And by the way, even if you have Medicare or Medicare specifically, it's not a full coverage. Maybe Medicaid, but then again, you're limited to where you can go and so on and so forth. So it changes, and that's only in the U.S. Now you go outside of the U.S., forget about it. Now, what I love,
Yes.
about Medici is that now you open up more clinics everywhere. That's only in the States, or are you also planning to expand overseas, or it's basically just an open invitation to people to come in from parts of the world and get their treatments at
Yeah.
Medici in the U.S.?
Yes, it's an invite to come to Austin, Texas, our head office. We just booked a 5-person family coming from Chile, South America, and we're like, man, that's a new one. Haven't had anybody from there, so we love people coming in from wherever they are to be healthy, be inspired, and really understand their body and their health options in a brand new way as we seek to build the world's healthiest community.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Thank
And
you.
you know what? This is an international show, so I think we'll have people listening to it from all over the world. And I mean, I think a lot of people can travel to the U.S. easily. I think with the World Cup
Yeah.
coming up now, I mean, the visas will be a little bit better. So I think people can change, stuff. But I think if you can typically afford to travel overseas from a lot of parts of the world, you can certainly get your visa to
Yes.
U.S. and stuff. I know sometimes the politics can make it difficult, but hey, listen, it's an open invitation, folks. Medici is available. The
That's
services
it.
are available. It's for your health. It's for your own. Knowing, by the way, another thing, doctor, I know you have to go, but the idea of you said well, some results are positive. There's nothing. You're not at risk. But even if there were some risks that showing, hey, listen, you might be at risk of this, but at least now you know, and it's ahead of the game, so you can make those healthy changes, as you said, and then this thing will be, just no brainer. It's gone. You prevented it before it even
Yeah.
happens. So again, we say knowledge is power. This is knowledge is power. This is where you can have the knowledge, make the decision, and do something about things before they go bad. So, well, listen. So one last thing. Anything you want to leave our audiences with as a
No,
piece of advice?
it's been an honor to be on your show today. I've got a book coming out later this year called Your Doctor is an Idiot. My wife is trying to get me to change the title because she's like, we've got so many doctor friends who are going to hate it. But I want people to understand, like, stop listening. There's a lot we've been listening to for decades that has not pointed us in the right direction of health. So, anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you. And I don't. By the way, you're welcome to come back when the book is out, and we can chat about the book and what's in the book. I think I get
Fantastic.
the gist of it, but I think people will
Yeah.
will definitely be interested in knowing more and get in some of the deep dive. But certainly, let's look out for that, folks. Here, if you're watching or listening right now, you said at the end of the year, the summer or the year, right?
And by the end of summer, it'll be out.
All right.
Yes,
That's a couple of months away. So, folks,
it
stay
is.
tuned
It
for the
is.
book. I think that's a catchy title, by the way. And yes,
Uh,
it's some of these titles can be also powerful to attract the right information, the right audience, and give the information. All right. Well, that being said, Doc, thank you so much for being with us. It's been real. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Bye bye.
Yes, thank you. You too. All right, folks. That's the end of the show. Hope you had some fun. You've learned some stuff. Do check out Medici. Description of the link will be in the description of the show. So please, check it out. Let's make it happen. All right. I'm Hurricane H. Thank you for watching, listening. Bye for now.